Who wants an open-ended activity they can use any grade, anytime? Hi everyone, welcome to Talk and Chalk. I'm Beck. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Thank you to all my new subscribers, all of the usual thank yous that I do. If you haven't seen my videos, check them out, click to subscribe, look in the description for all of my follows on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. I want to get straight into it today. So I'm talking about a literacy activity that you can do, I think, kindergarten to year 12, and you can do this at any point. So if you're a relief teacher, casual teacher, substitute teacher, temporary teacher, whatever system you're working in or title that you might have, or if you're a permanent teacher that needs something end of the term, end of the year, something's happened and you want something random, this is going to be something for you. Now keep in mind, when I mention what it is, you're probably going to go, I've done it, and turn off. Hear me out, continue through, and see how you can extend this activity with your class. So what I'm talking about is making a book jacket for a story that you might be covering in the class or are going to cover in the class. Now, hear me out here, like I said, we've all done book covers, title pages for books. We've revamped them, we've copied them, we've created them differently in art lessons, changed the title, changed the character that's on the front, those sorts of things. I'm talking about a book jacket. The book jacket that folds around the book, that little bit of flimsy paper that sometimes you throw away. And you don't get them a lot on books now. Hardcovers might have them now, some of the older books that have them, or, you know, obviously adult books would have them more often. Our kids don't see it very, very often. So this is an opportunity for them to create something that they haven't actually had a lot of experience with. And the reason that it's an open-ended task is because there's so many different things that can go onto a book jacket. If you look very, very specifically at all of the details that can go into a book jacket, there's lots of information there. There's lots of language and detail that goes into it. So what I'm going to do for this video is I'm going to just outline sort of the younger grades and go up through the older grades on how you can extend and differentiate this activity and incorporate other KLAs into it. Okay, so hopefully you're still with me at this point because I think this is a really good activity to do. So imagine you've got your book. I've got my notebook here today. These have my notes in it. Obviously, you might want to show these kids an example of it. So bring a book in from home if you've got one, or put up some pictures on Google. Show them what a book jacket looks like. The fact that you can actually take it off the book and there's this bit of paper that fits onto it. And talk about the fact that it fits on perfectly. It's measured just for that book. It wouldn't necessarily fit another book. So, I mean, there's your maths in there. You have to measure the actual size of the paper, measure where the folds would go, the crease would go. Do you actually need a thicker bit on the side for the binding, and how it would fit onto the book? So for our Little students, you might just do the create the book cover, create a new book cover. But the fact that you're putting it onto a bit of paper that can then wrap around the book, they can then talk about what they might do on the back. Would they show the back of the picture? Like if it was Pig the Pug, would it be a different angle of Pig the Pug? And then you're looking at the back of the book as well. So you might even print out the text, that's the book description, the book review, whatever might be on the back of it. You might print that on a template for the kids to use, and then they can create the new book cover, book jacket, sorry. And they might decide, or you might decide and have control over that, if they're going to create a brand new title, if they're going to use magazine letters cut up and stick on to make the title. Can they use little, what are the tiles? The stampy tiles. Stampy tiles. Yeah, it's holidays. My brain's on go. Or even the stencils that you can color in, or you can get the lettering books where you can trace the letters. They might want to use that. And then you talk about things like, where does the author's name go? Where does the illustrator's name go? Do you want to change the placement? Where's the best spot to be able to see their name? Should it be big? Should it be small? And really talk about how that book appeals to the audience, and make sure you're getting into that frame mind. Remember, you're the author, you're the illustrator, and you can also be the audience. You can talk about the style of color that you're using, the style of patterns or color that you're using on there, and does it match the author or illustrator that's being used on there? So, I mean, if it was Aaron Blaby, we know he uses really bold colors and then really simple sort of pictures. There's not lots of clutter in his pictures, so he wouldn't necessarily have a lot of clutter on a book cover for Pig the Pug or Thelma the Unicorn or anything like that. So having those conversations with the kids about, does it look like that author or illustrator created the book jacket as well and what would go on the book jacket. And also, would you use a picture from the story? Would you create your own picture? Would you modify a picture that's from within the story? How would you do it that way? So going up a bit higher through the grades, obviously, looking at that text that's on the back of the book that's describing the book, and you could use some transformative writing to rewrite it. So if you've got kids that are still, learning to write, you may not get them to rewrite the whole passage. You might use some synonyms and take some words out and pop some other words in there, and practicing your synonyms in there to make sure that it's still describing the same thing in the story, but we're using different words and we're using our own writing. And that's a whole writing lesson right there. Looking at the paragraph, looking at the structure, what's written there, what font does it use, what style does it use, does it have any quotes, and what are you going to do to change it and make it your own description of the book? And that could be drafting, writing, and then publishing it onto the book jacket. Again, creating another cover to go with it. How are you going to make it match the back of the jacket? And does it all tie in together? Does it sound like it's actually come from that author or illustrator or publisher? I'm just going to my notes, sorry, because I wrote all of this down to make sure I didn't miss any ideas. So using that template as well as you get through those older grades, obviously it's easy enough to go to a book, get a ruler, measure it up, or even get a pencil and trace around it and see if that would actually fix. If you'd lay something down flat and trace around it, is that actually going to be enough for the book jacket to cover it? Some problem solving going on there. They can do some trial and error. But you could go onto the computer once they've done measurements like that. Go onto the computer, use Word, use Publisher, whatever format you prefer in your classroom. Get them to go on that and design some templates where they can draw up the rectangle, know what space they've got to work in, and then do an outer space as well where the jacket will flap around and fold onto the book. And then they could use those programs to create a title. Go to Google, copy and paste a picture. Go into Paint and learn to trace around the outline of something. You can still use Pig the Pug for this in these older grades if they want to. Get a picture of Pig, teach them different searches in Google, so typing in Pig the Pug transparent background and see what comes up from that and see if they can do their own background, Pig the Pug on top, and use text boxes and things like that and teach them how to get rid of the outside lines on text boxes and create transparency in those things. And there's tons of ICT that can go into that, and you don't even have to use the PC for that. If you've got iPads, if you've got tablets, if you've got Exos, whatever, use some of the apps you've got on there, Story Creator, all those sorts of things, as long as you've got a way to print it out, because ideally we want to see them actually putting it onto a book and seeing the final product. Keeping in mind, the final product isn't the goal here. The goal is all of that learning that leads up to it. Okay, looking at my notes again. Oh, reimagining it. So if you've got some older kids again moving up, get Pig the Pug. They still love Pig the Pug in Year 6. Everyone does. It's Aaron Blabey, people. Come on. They can reimagine it as a novel. They've looked at chapter books now. They know what they look like. Imagine Pig the Pug look like one of these. What would it look like? What kind of a jacket would it have around the front of it? Would it be a different description on the back? Would it be the same? Would it have book reviews? Would it have links to websites? What would you have on the back of that novel, and how would it be different to the picture book? Would the font be different? Would you have something along the side here if it would be bigger? And then get the kids to reimagine it in that higher level of thinking. And if you've got those older kids if you're going to do this with a chapter book or a novel, reimagine it as a picture book. Go the other direction. Get them to take one of these types of books and turn it into a picture book that might be big and square and have hard cardboard covers or flippy flaps inside it. What would that book jacket look like? Thinking creatively. This is why open-ended activities are great, because there's so much room for creativity, critical thinking, brain development, and essentially it gives kids back the control over their learning, which is what we want them to have. We want them to know they are learning and know that that learning continues in any context regardless. They can do this with a picture book, they can do this with a novel, a chapter book, they could do it with a textbook if they wanted to, which we can do in the older grades. Okay, and again, you can extend this to art. If you want to, you can do paintings. I love doing screen printing. Screen printing is great for these types of things, and incorporating all of that language and writing into it as well. So as you get through these older grades, essentially we probably want them to rewrite the whole back cover, and we can rewrite it in a way that makes the book sound completely different from what it is. It could be talking about a different section of the book that isn't really covered in the one that's already on there. So we've gone from that transformative writing of just using synonyms to now picking out other things as well and using the whole thing. I might use a quote from the book. As we get through those older grades as well, it would be great to get reviews on there as if it was a quote from someone else's review, and then giving a reference to where it's from. Is it from Sydney Morning Herald or the Daily Telegraph or whatever? And then that's a whole other lesson in itself, looking at who reviews books. Let's read some book reviews and let's see how they format those and where they're presented and where we can find them. Can we find them in newspapers, magazines, online, on TV? Where can they be found? And that is another way to extend it. And this is why this activity, just making a book jacket, you can extend that out over a couple of weeks depending on what you're going to do with it and what KLAs you're going to bring in with it as well. Choosing a publisher, I like this one for secondary because it really gets you to the point of thinking of authors as a business, as an income. And when you talk to the kids and say to them, you know, how does an author make money? They say, well, by selling books. So how does the author get the money? And they say, well, when you pay for the book. My response to that is, well, I bought my book at Big W. Big W is making the money off me. How does the author get the book? And then there's a whole other section there where you can talk about them as income earners and the fact that it's a job, it's a business, it's a way to make a living, and this is a lifestyle that they can achieve. When we're trying to put that author hat on, we want to make it realistic. They can be the entrepreneurs of the literacy world if they want to. And there's all sorts of other endeavors that you can have that come from being an author. Pig the Pug, I'm going to stick with it just because I love Pig the Pug. They have plushies for Pig the Pug. There's games, there's playing cards and everything. Like, all of those things can come from your book, and then there's a way to make an income off that and be that entrepreneur and extend themselves beyond the classroom and think of themselves in terms of real life learning and what you can do in the future if you want to be an author. So making sure you're talking about those publishers, because that's what authors need. They need publishers, and there's self-publishing. We know the most of the big companies, and you know, most of our kids would know Penguin. My kids, I should say, I'm in primary. Most of our kids would know Penguin. And looking at those publishers and what they actually do. Is there a link between all of those publishers? Do they only do children's books? Do they do other books? How do they market themselves? What kind of advertising do they have? And then they can research publishers and decide if they want to change the publisher. Maybe they're not selling many books with that publisher. They might want to try someone else, and have that conversation about, why did you pick that publisher? What makes them better than the one the author has now? And that's just lots of research and conversation and opinions that come out of that, which is, again, what we want. We want that openness to this activity where kids can have a choice, but they validate their decisions. If you want to really extend the jacket further, sometimes you get, you know, the CDs that have the audio version or a song from it. So I would recommend getting, because CDs are cheap as, stack of CDs, and you can either get some permanent texters or get the stick-on overlays, get them to create a CD version of the book and get them to record it. Get them to sit down and record the book. If you're doing a big chapter book, maybe just a chapter, and it can be a sample. So this might be get the sample audio, buy it on iTunes for $9.99, whatever. They're advertising their choice, whatever they want to do. But then get them to sit down, and then they get to practice their fluency, they get to practice reading out loud, they can do voices if they want to, create background music if you want to. This activity can go so far if you keep pushing it. And then get the little kids to read it if they're doing a kid's book, or get older kids to read it if they're doing an older book. Get their partner to read, to listen to it. I shouldn't say read it, listen to it. Getting too excited. And then ultimately, we can share that as a process. And then, like, even if you want to review other CDs that have got it, I can highly recommend, and now I'm going to forget the name of the title, the Best Cow in Show. It's called Best Cow in Show, and it's by Andy Cull, I think is his name. I hope that's his name. I'll try, I'll double check. And it's a follow-on from the book, The Cow That Laid an Egg. Both fantastic books, especially if you have kids in out-of-home care or foster care or aren't living with their parents. I highly recommend reading it. I got distracted. But it has a CD as well, and it has all the voices and music and sound effects. Listen to that and then get the kids to review it and then make their own. If you really want to extend yourself with those secondary kids as well, make a website for the book. So on the book, there would be, you know, a link. So their book jacket, remember, this final product is not the big deal. The final jacket would have just a website on it. Visit here for more information. But then they can go away and create one. Whether you as a school have access to actually create a real website or not, Doesn't matter. They can do it on Word. They can do it in Publisher. They can do it on PowerPoint if they want to, or Prezi. On a bit of paper, they can draw what it would look like on their website and design it that way. The idea being, though, that what would happen on the website? What do you have? Do you have games? Do you have information? Do you have study notes? Do you have a HSC guide? Whatever it might be. And create a website to go with it, because we want them to make those text connections that our book is in the real world doing real things. So if you're a HSC student, obviously, and you're studying a HSC text, we know that has impact in society. We pick those books for a reason, because they're moving and they're emotive and they have connectedness to the world, or they have real life aspects. So creating those extended activities with it make them realize that that book doesn't just impact them in the classroom, that it has a greater worldwide impact as well. Another one that they could do is a biography of the author. So as the jacket flaps around, sometimes in that side piece on the inside is a biography of the author. So this gives them the chance to research the author. They could maybe go to Google and get pictures of their other books. And if you like this, you might enjoy blah, 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 blah. So if it's Aaron Blaby, you'll have, I Need a Hug, you need Thelma the Unicorn, all those other ones there as well. And then they get to make more text connections and see patterns. And then as you see the titles of those books pop up on Google as well, they'll start to make connections and look at the similarities between it. Like I said, Aaron Blaby, you always know, because he's got that one font for his name. He's got a plain color background with the picture on it so that it stands out. And he's got very, very distinctive illustrations. So when you pick up a book, generally you know it's Aaron Blaby. Okay, I'm just relating to him because my kids love him and we've been reading his books these holidays, so he's in my head at the moment. Okay, now, you're clever teachers. You know how to extend and differentiate these activities. So hopefully if you've stayed through and watched till the end of this, I might have given you some new ideas that you could use. Like I said, if you're a casual or a temporary teacher and you need something, this really does connect to programs that we're doing in the class. Just make sure you're having those conversations. This shouldn't be a random, okay kids, off you go make a new cover, go do a book jacket. Have conversations. If you're going to create a sticker on the front of your jacket that says, winner Children's Book Award for 2017, why did it win? Why did you choose to give it the sticker? What other stickers are available? What prizes can you win for the Children's Book Awards or other young adult books, whatever? Have the conversation, let the research go into it, and let the writing go into it as well. Any piece of writing can come out of this. Writing the back, writing the author, giving an argument for why one publisher is better than another publisher, using persuasive writing, convincing each other. You can make a speech about it. You can do anything with these activities, just keeping in mind that openness of, it doesn't just have to be a cover. There's so much information that can go on there. ISBN numbers, barcode numbers, what do they mean? Research those, put it on there. Okay, I'm out of breath now. Okay, hopefully you've enjoyed this. Hopefully you get something out of this. If you do, give me a thumbs up so that I know that it's a good video. If not, I won't do anyone like this again and I won't get so excited. If you do think it's going to benefit another teacher, primary or secondary, please share, tag, do whatever you need to do. If you're watching in Facebook, Twitter, or another social media, you will need to open this up into YouTube to click on below to see the description, and I'll have all my different things there. And most of all, click to subscribe if you like it. I will have more videos up. I do 2 videos every single week. So I usually put one up in the middle of the week around Tuesday or Wednesday, and then another one on the weekend, usually Saturday or Sunday, depending on how my week goes. So what I'll do though is if you're unsure of any of my other videos, I'll pop one there so you can have a look and see what other videos that I do, and I'll click my other button down here if you want to subscribe. You just hover over it and the little subscribe thing comes up. I hope all my New South Wales teachers are having a good holiday. See you in the next video, guys. Bye.